In this section, we will talk about characteristics of self-concept. One characteristic of self-concept is that your view of yourself may actually be inaccurate. A lot of reasons why your view of self could be inaccurate. One could be that you are basing your view of yourself on outdated information. So when we say obsolete information, it is something that no longer applies to you. So perhaps in grade school, you were a very good singer. And now that you are much older, you are not a good singer for whatever reason. The point is, today you're not a good singer, but in third grade, you were a good singer. And if someone said or asked you, are you a good singer? And you said yes, and you were basing that on your ability to sing in third grade, you would be basing that on obsolete information. If I were to say that I were a good basketball player when I was, in fact, a high school basketball player, and let's say I was even average then, and I said, yeah, I'm average, well, I don't play basketball anymore. And that's based on obsolete information. So it's information that no longer applies. Another characteristic of an inaccurate self concept is that your view of self could be based upon distorted feedback. Now, this goes back to reflected appraisal. And distorted feedback means that the feedback you get from others is inaccurate. So if someone keeps telling you that you are really, really good at dancing, and in fact you are not a good dancer, and you believe that you are a good dancer based on that reflected appraisal, and who would that reflected appraisal come from, by the way? It would come from a significant other, someone whose opinion you value. And if you believe it and it's inaccurate, that's self-concept based upon distorted feedback. Another area that leads to an inaccurate self-concept is something called the myth of perfection. So the myth of perfection basically says that you have a belief that a normal person has no faults, yet you know you have faults. So you think, let's see, a normal person has no faults, but I have faults. Therefore, I'm not normal. And that would be an inaccurate view of self. And typically, this view develops from oftentimes at home when parents do not demonstrate to their kids that they make mistakes or they have faults. They hide their mistakes from their kids. And so kids grow up with this model of perfection, that I can't have faults. My parents don't have faults, so therefore I can't have faults. And a lot of times, if you think about it, that can lead to shame or maybe hiding those faults, not admitting you have them because you want to be viewed as normal and you think a normal person has no faults. So that normally starts at home. Also, characteristic of an inaccurate self-concept is because you have chosen inappropriate reference groups. And by the way, this you could tie back to Killing Us Softly 4. If you are choosing images to compare yourself, images in magazines or in television that are not even real, you're choosing an inappropriate reference group. But the myth of perfection could also come from you measuring yourself against the ideal image that does not really exist. I hope that makes sense. So the inappropriate reference group also would be if I compare myself as a basketball player to third graders, I'm going to have a view of myself that is distorted. A couple other characteristics. Your self-concept is situational. So, for instance, I'm actually not very good in math, whether that's because I don't put forth an effort or I never applied myself, it doesn't matter. But as a student in math, if someone said, what kind of student are you? It would be situational as to what my view of self is. In some courses, I would say I'm pretty good, and in other courses, I would say I'm not. So my view of self is situational. So as a math student, I would say, not a good student. But in other areas, I might say I am a good student. The other thing is your self concept is reluctant to change after the age 30. And people will ask why that is. And oftentimes it's because by that time you pretty much know who you are. You accept who you are, and you have enough experiences to say, "Yep, by the time I'm 30, this is who I am." Now, I don't want that to indicate that you can't change or you can't grow, but overall, your view of self, it's I'm funny, I'm tall, I'm a hard worker, I'm loyal. Those types of views of self are not going to change after the age of 30 for the most part. Okay, that ends this section. Thank you.